These deeds make so evident the bestial nature of those who would assume power if they could have their way and drive us out of that area.
At first light, Air Force One brought the President, his Secretary of State George Shultz, and National Security Advisor Robert McFarlane back to Washington. The President and his key men had been on a golfing spree 800 miles to the south of here when the news broke in the early hours. All immediately transshipped to a helicopter that would fly them to the first round of crisis talks at the White House. Arriving on the South Lawn amid the grief surrounding the tragedy, Mr. Reagan gave the first clue that he will not be pulling the Marines out.
These deeds make so evident the bestial nature of those who would assume power if they could have their way and drive us out of that area, that we must be more determined than ever that they cannot take over that vital and strategic area of the earth, or for that matter, any other part of the earth.
Congress and the Senate have supported President Reagan's line on the Lebanon until today, differing only on the degree of control they'd like to exercise over his actions. Despite a growing unease about whether the President is clear about his objectives in the Lebanon, members of both houses still appear to be with him. And if there was pressure before to pull out, many, like former Secretary of State Kissinger, are now urging Mr. Reagan to go on the offensive.
I was not in favor of sending American forces to Beirut to begin with. I've been saying for months we either have to do more or less if we are doing it as a solitary American effort. There is no sense having American forces that cannot make a decisive difference to the situation. I would now, in the present circumstances, like to make a decisive difference.
2 hours ago, the day's second crisis meeting got underway at the White House, and it was during this session that it was confidently predicted that the President would give the order for what is to happen next on the ground in Beirut. Those talks have been on two fronts. One, the question of a military response to what's happened, and here the continuing doubt about precisely who was responsible for the bomb attack has made real difficulties. Two, the question of the security of the Marines, relocating them on higher ground or offshore on ships, or perhaps changing their rules of engagement, allowing them to go on preemptive strikes, allowing them to go on search and destroy missions. But at any rate, the thinking has centered not on any question of withdrawal, but on a probable greater military involvement. John Snow, ITN, Washington.